Reason number one, Israel has been reborn as a nation. Check. Reason number two, Jerusalem has been restored to Israel. Now, this occurred between June 5th and June 10th in 1967 when Israel fought and won the Six-Day War. Now, this was against all odds, terribly outnumbered, and not without many documented miracles. Tiny Israel came up against her formidable enemy, and through Jehovah Nissi, God our banner, was successful. And this went against every nation's prognostications and predictions that Israel would be annihilated. All passages concerning the tribulation make it abundantly clear that the Jews will have control of Jerusalem when the Antichrist comes. The temple will be rebuilt. Where? In Jerusalem. This has to happen in order for the desolation of abomination, or when the Antichrist standing in the Holy of Holies declaring he is God. This has to happen for that to occur. Jeremiah 23, 3 through 6 says that when Jesus will appear, it will be after the Jews return to Israel. Luke 21, 24 links the growth and prosperity of Jerusalem to the return of Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. Luke 21, 32 says that this generation will not pass away. Again, this refers not only to the other signs of warning, but to Jerusalem being returned to Israel. Reason number two, and let me say this before I sum that up. Jerusalem is God's prophetic pointer to the nations. All directions in the Bible are given from Jerusalem. And if Israel is the center of God's heart, and it is, then Jerusalem is the center of his heart. Reason number two, Jerusalem has been restored to Israel. Check. Reason number three, the Jews are returning to Israel, especially from Russia. Ancient prophets foretold that the Jews would return to their homeland after the diaspora, or the dispersing of the Jews by the Romans in 70 AD. After nearly 3,000 years of persecution, the Jews still exist. This is in and of itself proof that God is the God of Israel. Einstein was once asked if he believed in miracles. He stopped, he paused, he thought, and he said, yes, the Jews. The Jews are a miracle. Isaiah states in 11 through 14, that God shall set his hand yet a second time to recover the remnant of his people. The key words here are a second time. The first time was after the Babylonian captivity. But he said he would gather them from the four corners of the world, and he is doing just that as we sit in this seminar. Jeremiah said in 23:7 and 8 that the days were coming when God would lead the descendants of the house of Israel from the north country and from all the countries, and he would drive them back into their own land of Israel. Jeremiah further states in 31:8 through 12 that God will bring the Jews back from the north country and from the ends of the earth, and there will be a great throng of them returning to Israel. The country to the uttermost north of Israel is Russia, and there is a huge migration from Russia to Israel. As a matter of fact, the largest group of Jewish immigrants making aliyah, or immigration to Israel, are Russian Jews. I have sponsored a Russian Jew to return to Israel. Maybe some of you have done the same thing. Listen to this. Presently, there are Jews in Israel from 120 countries. They are speaking over 83 languages there today. So for the first time since 70 AD, There are more Jews concentrated in Israel than any other location on earth. And this includes the United States, where many Jews fled after the Holocaust. That original number of immigrants of 650,000 has now swelled to 5.3 million. You might be saying that's not very many. Folks, there are only 12 to 15 million Jewish people on the planet, on the entire planet. So for this many Jews to be located back in Israel is a miracle. Is this prophecy being fulfilled? You betcha. Reason number 3, the Jews are returning to Israel, especially from Russia. Check. Reason number 4, and this will be our final one for this session. Israel is becoming the burdensome stone of the world. This is almost a no-brainer, but let's discuss it anyway. The prophet Zechariah in 12:3 writes, "And it shall happen in that day." You know, you keep hearing a lot about that day. Whenever they're talking about that day, they're talking about the end times. "It shall happen in that day that I will make Jerusalem a very heavy stone for all peoples, and all who would heave it away will surely be cut into pieces, though all the nations of the earth are gathered against it." In what day? When the nations of the earth are gathered against Israel. And when is this? In the end of days. Turn on your radio. Turn on your television set. You will hear Israel in the news on any given day. I cannot remember ever in my life hearing so much about Israel. It used to be that you only heard about these towns in Israel when you were singing your Christmas carols. Holiday songs. Yuck. There's a Greek word for that. It's called baloney. But you'd sing "Oh Little Town of Bethlehem." And you would these little songs. But now we cannot escape the news about Israel. The Arab terrorist groups hate the Jews. And now because Christians support Israel, they hate Christians. And even on the conservative program of Bill O'Reilly, there were Christians on that show, Americans, who said that we Christians are responsible for terrorism in this country because we have supported Israel. A recent poll in Europe showed that 59% of Europeans believe that Israel is the most major threat to the world. And there is an upsurge in anti-Semitism all over the world. Jews in England are being told not to put any Jewish symbols in their storefronts, not to wear their yarmulke. Don't show that you're Jewish. And this is one of the more tolerant countries. Anti-Semitism is worse today than it was during the time of Hitler. It's everywhere and it surrounds us. It's just the tip of the iceberg. And if you watch the protests against Israel and America around the world, as Israel is finally taking care of business and ferreting out those terrorists who just keep tossing those bombs and rockets in. Folks, that part of the scripture in Zechariah, listen, all who would heave it away shall surely be cut into pieces. That should scare the pants off of you, because this country is pushing and shoving Israel to give away the covenant land as part of the roadmap to peace. That's stage 3, giving away the eastern portion of Jerusalem, which is, by the way, where all the holy sites are. And all I can say is if America continues on this two-state solution in the Middle East, God help us. The Bible among the elite politicians in Washington today is a book called The Israel Lobby. And the premise of this book is the greatest flaw in our foreign policy is our support of Israel. And the book goes on to say we should take a more even-handed approach, maybe even favoring the Arabs. Now, I'm going to say something, and I want everyone to hear it, and I want you to repeat it. To be pro-Israel is not to be anti-Arab. God is not, and you shouldn't be either. He promised Hagar and Ishmael vast lands, vast wealth, and they have vast lands and vast wealth. We're not talking about the Arab people, but we are talking about systems and maybe religions here. And I want to ask you to begin to pray about America's position in all of this and America's future as if your own future depended on it, because it does. Your future depends on where we go in our stand with Israel. Reason number 4, Israel is becoming the burdensome stone of the world. Check. We're going to end our session here today. I want to remind you that you are to look up scriptures that will support reasons 1 through 4. Bring them back to your next class. Be prepared to share them with your class, and we will see you then.